Hi guys, it's iCave Dave here. In this video, we've got the Constant Geekery guys with their segment from iCaversary. I hope you enjoy it. I want to just thank everyone that came on the stream for the support and everything else that they showed. Enjoy. Hello.
We need to move in.
Yeah, just cuddle up a little bit closer. Sorry, it's
really. I've got cuddle feet.
We can do it that way.
Oh, look at that. That's better.
I didn't have a shower this morning either.
Real-time editing. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Very well. How are you doing, Dave? And good. Congratulations, mate. This is quite a stellar achievement for your 1 year on YouTube. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a lot of people coming on that I really didn't expect would say yes. So you guys as well, thank you for all the support. It's been really great. The videos that you guys put out, so well researched as well, which I'm sure
it's mainly him. I'm just the comic relief.
Well, that's see, I have to do all of that. I have to try and make it funny as well. Like it's a tough job. But yeah, the guys over at Constant Geekery, if you haven't seen, these guys have probably done the best videos on the SSD Wear stuff that was coming out that everyone's been talking about. They've got a podcast as well. So if you guys have got any questions for these guys, now would be a really good time to post them up in the chat so that you can ask them and they can respond right here. But if you want to give a quick rundown of all the stuff that you do on the channels, because like I don't think I can keep up as well with all the different bits that you guys do. So if you want to go for that.
Yeah, so we do try to do a bit of a range of tech, but the audience really loves the Apple stuff. So whenever we do Apple stuff, then yeah, you're guaranteed plenty of views. But we review stuff, take stuff on for review generally when I think it's going to be interesting and the audience might enjoy it. We do the podcast on a separate channel, and that's sort of slowly growing with followers. Pete usually tells some really appalling jokes.
I do not. That is a gross misrepresentation.
Yeah, we've done a whole variety of stuff. I guess really the channel kind of grew because of the M1 stuff, and also what I was doing with an old 2013 Mac Pro as well, taking it to pieces and trying to make it work and usable.
Which you did.
I did.
For a long time.
I did for a long time, and then I sold it. And
so with 2013, are we talking trash can, or are we talking like just pre-trash can?
No, it was a trash can that we bought for our studio. As most people who watch our channel will know, Pete and I own a web studio. So we had one of these. It was a basic sort of quad core one, and I took it to pieces, put a 12 core in it, up the RAM, played around with some eGPU action as well. And actually it does pretty good in the benchmarks with the eGPU on for video editing and stuff like that. So we made a few videos about that, and people seem to like that, especially the bit where I take it apart. So
yeah, well,
I mean, you can see the fear in my eyes. Yeah,
it's a weird looking computer when you take it apart as well, isn't it? That kind of thermal core with it, which actually kind of ties back to a lot of what they were doing with the PowerMac G4 Cube. Although they didn't put a fan in that one either. But yeah, everything was kind of built around that one kind of core center piece, wasn't it? Just a quick thank you to Marcin Kowalczyk for the iCave anniversary gift. Very much appreciated, pal. Thank you. But yeah, we've also got a question just here from Linda Lawson, who is chief cheerleader for the channel. And she's asking for an update on the drive gate. So I'm guessing that means SSD Wear.
Yeah, so I did I think what is probably going to be our final video on it, unless things dramatically change. So that's one. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, they didn't see it, and it's fair to say that on our 3 M1 Macs that we're still testing at the moment, we haven't seen those issues.
No.
So it's very linked to Rosetta. Apple definitely fixed something in 11.4 version of Mac OS, and it is improved, but there are still things going on. So some people are still having issues, and it seems to be little sort of background apps that are still Intel binaries, so still Intel programs, and they're being translated through Rosetta. And an example of that might be that you have an app that has a web view built into it, and it's using the Intel version of Chrome behind the scenes to embed that. So you're getting the same problem, but you don't realize it's happening. So yeah. And I guess the other main issue that we had was the people using the 8 GB M1 model for things that you probably shouldn't use an entry-level Mac for.
Even though you can, because it's got the power to do it, it's just not really, it's not intended for that purpose. So just because you can, it's kind of just exasperating that problem, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and I do take some heat sometimes for suggesting that people shouldn't do this kind of stuff with their Mac, but I'm not talking about your everyday video editing and stuff like that. I'm talking about, I've heard of actual video production studios, professionals who are buying these things and running them to edit, Red RAW.
8K.
Yeah.
Just really?
Yeah. No, I mean, in fairness, my stuff is all shot on iPhone in general. This is one of the very few times that I'm using something else because I've got my old Lumix just hanging out above the monitor here. But in general, using the iPhone for it, obviously everything's kind of set up to work that way. Like that's what Apple really wants you to do is film on your iPhone, use the H.265, the highly compressed stuff that then the M1 is just set up perfectly for with the hardware stuff that they've built in. So, I mean, it's just an incredible little bit of kit. And the fact that I've got this base Mac Mini, literally the cheapest one you can get, and I'm running this whole thing off of it is absolutely bonkers for 699 quid. It's a ridiculous little piece of kit. But yeah, absolutely love it. Which have you got one of each of the M1s?
We've got a couple of MacBook Airs, which are both the same spec. They're the poverty spec.
Mm-hmm.
I say poverty spec, and you know what I mean. The entry level models. We ended up with two of them because we ordered one from Apple through our business connection, and it was taking so long to come. We ordered one on Amazon and we tried to cancel the Apple one, and then it turned up the same day. So if your Apple product is taking a long time to turn up, try and cancel it because they'll probably ship it out to you quicker. Top tip there. And then we got a 16 gig M1 Mac Mini, which is what I do most of my testing on. We're still not ready to roll it out in our web studio yet, but we will buy more when the M1X stuff comes out.
Mm-hmm. So is there much in terms of software support that you're still finding issues with M1? Because I mean, I think Rosetta's worked very well, but obviously it's not as perfect as having it sort of integrated and having it natively running.
We've got a developer who's actually trialing an M1 for some of his web tasks to see if he comes up with any kind of blockers, because our sort of DevOps guy has said broadly you can do everything now, but it's only when you actually start getting into projects that you may come across stuff that you don't think of every day, but suddenly you go, that doesn't work as expected. So we're kind of giving it a limited trial in the wild.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. Sorry, did you have something else to add there?
Well, I was just going to say it's the virtualization that's the holdback for developers. They want to run virtual machines. All of our servers that we're hosting web projects on, they're all Intel or x86 based servers. So doing that on the M1 isn't an optimized workflow at the moment, shall we say? But I'm sure it's coming. I don't think it will be long before we'll be able to switch to Apple Silicon, which is important for us because we've got a lot of aging computers in our studio because we've been holding off, waiting.
There's probably a lot of other studios and creative agencies and individuals who are in a similar boat, just waiting to see what happens next. So
yeah,
you feel that pain.
Absolutely. So when is I know you guys don't necessarily do predictions and stuff about what's going to be coming at events, but do you think September, October for M1X? What are you expecting?
Definitely 2021 for some of those things.
Well done, Pete. Really put his neck on the block there, did he? I'll go for it. I mean, I was totally wrong. I thought it would be WWDC. And I was, like many people, a bit miffed that Apple didn't do that and didn't even mention it at all. Not even one mention of the Apple Silicon transition, which I find quite rude to the developers who've worked so hard on it. I suspect October. That's what I'm thinking, because that would then give you a November launch for the things, and they'll be 1 year on exactly from M1.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to
plant your flag.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that Apple wanted to do them at WWDC based on the fact that they put M1X and M1X MacBook Pro into the YouTube tags, which is, a little bit of a giveaway that they were hoping to be putting it out there. but I think that might be the reason that they didn't mention Apple Silicon at all, was because the whole section couldn't really be separated out once it had been edited and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit disappointing. But I would definitely, I mean, it's got to be this year, surely. Please, can we have stuff?
I think a lot of it comes down to the chip shortage. That's probably what it is. They obviously had the M1 booked in, and then the chip shortage hit, and I think a lot of it's come down to that.
Well, I think that's why we got the M1 in the iPad Pro. I think they ditched the idea of the uprated A14. Just stuck the M1 in, and of course then you've got this annoying situation where you can't actually use it properly. And I suspect they've got the same sort of issue with the M1X, because with the new phones coming out, the A15, I mean, iPhone just dwarfs Mac sales. So if you're in charge of the production lines and what they're going to fabricate, then surely they're going to give priority to the A15 chips for the phones.
Absolutely. I've got a feeling that the M1s themselves were not a bottleneck. I think those were actually produced on time. From what I understand, it was the other bits that have to go on the boards, the other controllers and power controllers, all that sort of thing. Because there was definitely at least reports that the M1X chips had been produced, but I've got a feeling it was either the displays as well as probably the other big bottleneck that they've had with those mini LED displays. And I think they could probably have put out a Mac Mini with M1X, but they didn't want to launch it without the MacBook Pros. So that's my big take on it at the moment. We have got a couple of questions that actually come in for you guys. So I'm just having a quick look in the chat here. So Sharon B has asked, Constant Geekery, what is the hardest part of running a YouTube channel? Time, review products, etc.
Working with him. Beat you to it.
It's hard work, really hard work. If anyone's thinking, well, you'll know this, Dave, but if anyone's thinking of a YouTube channel, it's a huge amount of work it takes a long time to get a financial reward out of it. But the hardest thing for me, the emotional energy that it takes. And when you put a video up, and you always get trolls and bad comments, but when you get those kind of things, that negativity, that really knocks you for six. And when you've put your heart and soul into doing something, or especially like on our channel, we do try to always be honest and to not be sensationalist and everything else. You try so hard and try to be fair, and then someone will just come on who hasn't watched the video and they'll leave some comment, Apple fanboy troll. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find that the most sort of draining thing. I enjoy the work, I enjoy the creative process. So, but it's when you get negative feedback, that can be quite hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And in all honesty, we have a really good audience here. We get very little of that negativity, and when I do, I just reply to them and pin it for the rest of the community to deal with. So that tends to be the best way. Throw them to the lions.
Good solution. Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a few more. Have we got any other questions for the guys from Constant Geekery in the chat? I was going to say we have spoken as well about doing a bit of a collaboration after this as well. I know obviously this was kind of the first step, but if anyone in the chat's got any particular ideas on what you would like to see us do together, that would be really cool. Because at the moment, I don't think from my side we've got any ideas. I don't know whether you guys have got anything in mind at the moment.
I haven't thought past today. I think it'd be really good to do something around about the launch of, certainly around the launch of the new Macs. You've got your ear a bit closer to the ground, I think, Dave, on all of the rumors and things. And we tend to sort of approach things from a very business and strategic viewpoint. So I think it could be an interesting mix. And we'd love to do a collab with you.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think that's going to do pretty well. Oh, my wife is saying that there were questions higher up, so I'm just going to scroll back in the chat a little bit and see if I can find some more here. Questions for Constant Geekery. This is from Mile Hyde 5280. Have you seen SSD performance issues with the M1 iPad Pro versus the USB-C port on the M1 MacBook? So I'm guessing that's in terms of the performance throughput on those.
Okay, so the SSD in the M1 iPad Pro is different to what you get in the M1 Max. It is an NVMe drive. It is quite quick. Off the top of my head, and it's nearing sort of 2000 megabits, that kind of performance. I haven't done a lot of testing with the internal SSD on the M1 iPad Pro because the files functionality in iPadOS is so utterly shocking. I don't know whether...
You don't know when it's done.
Oh, well, yeah, some kind of progress bar would be great. We have done some testing, obviously, with the Thunderbolt port and the USB performance. The USB performance is a step down from the M1 Max, which are already a step down from the Intel Max. The Thunderbolt performance is absolutely woeful. And that's something, obviously, that will be my next video, actually, that coming out this week. We'll be testing that again with the latest beta edition of iPadOS.
Okay. So is that something that you think they might be able to address in software as opposed to being a hardware limitation?
I'd like to think so, because the M1 Max can run the Thunderbolt port at full speed. And I tested that, and actually it was slightly quicker than our Intel iMacs. So I think it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got one other question that I can see here, which is from Joe, who asks, what do you think about Apple Silicon Mac Pro modularity, even if it is, which it probably won't be, as modular as the Intel Mac Pros? How do you think they might be approaching that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd like to see...
computer, how theoretically will they theoretically approach this modularity? So it's a tricky one. There's a lot of maybes.
Yeah, a lot of maybes. I mean, what we'd all like to see is a completely modular computer. I think that's fair to say. You know, being able to change the chip. I mean, bear in mind, with Apple Silicon, everything's on the chip. You know, so it's going to be really important that when they release M4 at some point in the future, that you'll be able to slot it in.
Yeah.
How far they'll go with graphics cards and things like that is another question. They clearly have to do something. I don't think they're going to catch up GPU performance on Apple Silicon up to the level that's needed for some people who are buying the Mac Pro. So I'd like to see that kind of modularity. I'd like to see the ability to change memory and drives and everything else that you expect on a Mac Pro.
Yeah.
But my brain is telling me this is Apple. And so my hopes are not high and my breath is not bated, shall we say.
No,
gotcha.
Don't count on it. Don't count on it.
And then we've got another one here from Andre Louis. Hi there for both Constant Geekery and or Dave. I have I have a drive that rarely connects at 10 gigabits, but more often collects at only 5. What could I do to force the higher speed? I'm guessing, I know Andre's got an M1 MacBook Pro from memory, I think.
Difficult one to answer without being able to have a look at it. I think there are some chipsets that the M1 is still struggling with. That certainly seems to be the case. And I know when I've done testing before, there's been comments of people who are naming specific chips that do work at full speed. So the USB issue on the M1 Mac, where it slows down to 5 gigabits, is definitely driver related, as far as I can see. Saying definitely, as far as I can see, it's driver related. So it may be a case that we just need to wait for macOS to incorporate new drivers for whatever chipset is being used in the drive that you've got.
Gotcha.
I think there were some drives quoted in the comments where people weren't having those issues, as you've mentioned. So if your need is desperate and you can't wait for those driver updates, you could look in those comments. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but you could look in there and take a punt on it. It depends how desperate you are for that extra throughput. Like
grabbing a new enclosure, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I would say is just double check your cables as well, because USB-C, that beautiful new universal thing, has got Thunderbolt versions of the cables that are faster than some of the USB-C ones, and so there's a lot of differences between different cables, so it could just be a cable quality thing. So
that's a really good point, Dave. Actually, some USB-C cables do not conform to the standard. They're actually slower. Yeah, really good point.
I actually made that mistake a while back. I was actually getting really frustrated and then realised I put just a duff cable in. So
sometimes they're just basically for power delivery, for a phone. So Yeah, so that's just another thing that's worth having a check on. Right, guys, thank you ever so much for coming on. We've got another guest lined up in a couple of minutes, and I know one of you has definitely got some time constraints today, so I do really appreciate you coming on and joining us today. Thank you ever so much to the guys from Constant Geekery. And where can everyone find you online? Just do that one quickly.
Well, it's just youtube.com/Constant Geekery.
Cool. Thanks ever so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. See you, Dave.
Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want any more... So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And if you're already subscribed, a little like on the video wouldn't go amiss. Thanks so much.